following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello, everyone. This is Rob Deininger with Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I'm here with Jack Degraw. And as always, we're talking Yankees baseball. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you today, Robert?
Not too bad. Things are a little quiet before spring training and pitchers and catchers report, but what do you think about some of the trade talk with Arenado?
Well, I mean, they're throwing around some big names like Clint Frazier, Andujar, Happ, and I believe, was there another name being thrown around too, Robert?
I heard that Debbie Garcia. They're looking for young players who can play now, but I mean, that's quite a package for one player, even though he's, one of the best players at his position.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great player and all, but I don't know if you want to give up, too much. I could see maybe two of the top prospects, but, either Andujar or Frazier. I don't like to see him give up both, and then you throw up in Garcia. I mean, if it's Andujar and Garcia, maybe you consider it. If it's Frazier and Garcia, you consider it. But the Yankees' problem isn't hitting. They have a good third baseman now. I mean, Aldonado is great, but the problem isn't hitting. The problem is having solid pitching and everybody staying healthy.
Yeah, and right now, I still believe Clint Frazier is going to be a perennial all-star once he gets a full-time opportunity somewhere. I mean, the kid's got one of the quickest bats I've ever seen, and Andujar, I think, has got a bright future, too. I mean, the sky's the limit for him, I think. I mean, he was really impressive his rookie year.
Yeah, like we were talking last week, and they told Andujar that this spring he's going to get some action at first base and the outfield. So, that'll be interesting. But we haven't heard. I mean, I haven't heard anything about Clint Frazier. I mean, have you heard any news on him?
He put out a cryptic tweet a couple days ago, something like being sent away and then finding a way to make it. It was a very cryptic, and people started speculating that, the Yankees are close to a deal for Arenado, but, it could have just been him screwing around. You never know with Clint Frazier, but otherwise it's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard that, his name mentioned at all. And another thing, this week, some of the Yankees are down here in Tampa, and they're taking BP, and the pitchers are getting ready over to Himes, a minor league complex. So, it's right around the corner.
Yeah, there was a video of Stanton and Voit working out in the weight room, kind of going back and forth. And at one point, Stanton started bench pressing a lady who was there interviewing both of them. I mean, so they look like they're gearing and, ready to go. Well,
like we keep saying, it's great they can do all that stuff. It'd be even better if they could stay healthy. But
yeah, right.
They'll hit. I mean, what's the difference if you hit a home run 400 feet or 480 feet? It's still a home run.
Yeah.
The big thing is, I don't know if weightlifting is that a baseball skill? I mean, it helps with power. But, your joints don't get any bigger. You still pull muscles. Does it help you throw? Does it help you run? I don't know. It certainly helps with the power, and you certainly look better. But, is it a baseball skill?
I mean, Mickey Mantle was country strong. I don't think, he was in the weight room that often. He was just a big strong guy. Even though Stanton's probably twice the size Mantle is or was.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys nowadays, they can, they can all hit home runs, and they can, and it's like they talk about the lefty-righty thing, like the Yankees need some lefty bats, and but I mean, they can go the opposite field like nothing. So it's not like they're pull hitters anymore. They can hit the ball out all over.
Yeah, and this year you're allowed 26 roster members instead of the normal 25 that we're used to. Correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So,
that's actually one of the few good rules.
Yeah. I still hate that minimum 3 batter rule. I really don't like that one.
Yeah, I don't think anybody likes that. Hopefully, clearer heads will decide that that's just a terrible rule, because that's really messing with the strategy of the game.
Yeah, and I remember we were talking about how Major League Baseball was thinking of shutting down 42 minor league teams. Remember we were talking about that? Yeah.
They're well, the owners they voted unanimously. I think it was 30-0 that they wanted to do it, because one of the things, the minor leaguers make squat.
Yeah,
they don't make no money, and I think now they're saying, well, we'll raise pay, but you're going to have to eliminate this many teams. I think it was 30 teams, and I think the Staten Island Yankees were one of them.
Yeah, I had an interesting. Yeah.
Go ahead, Robert.
Staten Island. Yeah, you're right. The Staten Island Yankees were one of them.
Yeah, and I don't know. I haven't really heard too much about it lately, but if the billionaires want to do things, I'm sure they'll find a way to get it done. It's sad for the people who live in those small towns, because they love their baseball and they look forward to it. The summer league teams and everything. But I really haven't heard too much lately. But I'd say there's a good chance that's going to happen.
Yeah, because I got a thing here that minor league baseball put out about the community impact, and since 2015, the 42 clubs that have been targeted by MLB, $9.7 million were raised for local nonprofits and ballparks. $7.7 million was raised for educational programs. $1.4 million was raised for cancer research. Another $1 million for military veteran causes. Over $800,000 for youth baseball. There's over 8,000 total volunteer hours, but a total of $31.5 million were brought into charitable contributions since 2015 in those 42 ballparks that the Major League Baseball is targeted. And that will hurt a lot of communities and a lot of causes that they raise money for.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these small towns, a lot of them are like the old New York Penn League. And, people love that stuff. They look forward to that summer league. They start in mid-June and they go through Labor Day, and it's a touch of old-fashioned baseball. I mean, a lot of the players, they stay with local families, and they're really like big stars in the community. And like you were saying, they raise a lot of money for charity, and it's just it'd be a sad thing to see end, and it's really a disgrace that what these minor leaguers make. I mean, minor league hockey players make over $50,000 a year for this, for the say a AA level in baseball, and even the minor leagues, like say the NBA. I think it's the G League. I mean, these guys make an average of $40,000 a year, and what they make in baseball is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and they got the money to spend, especially with the TV deals.
Yeah, one of the things that I found interesting is when these kids come down here for the minor league training camp, they don't get paid for that. They don't get paid for spring training games. They don't get paid for the extended spring training. So it's really that's why, like a lot of the kids from college and stuff, or even the young people, they don't want to play baseball because they know it's a real grind to get to the big leagues, and you could play for 6-8 years in the minor leagues, and you don't make nothing.
Yeah, you're right, and it's a grind too. I mean, a real grind.
Yeah, I know they got 2 or 3 players, living in apartments, and I know down here in Tampa, after a certain hour, Robert, everything's closed. So if you're with the Tampa Yankees, which is now the Tarpons, that's another subject we can get into. You get off at 10 o'clock, and where are you going to go to eat? You got the 7-Eleven, and all the places are closed basically at 10 o'clock, and it's it doesn't make for good nutritious meals. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And getting back to the roster, I've been talking with a lot of people online, and a lot of them like to see Talkman actually play over Brett Gardner in center field, especially if Gardner struggles at the beginning of the season.
Well, I think that that's sort of a battle in spring training. I mean, I like Talkman. He played outstanding last year, and so did Brett Gardner. Brett Gardner come in and after he had that injury, he really turned it up the last 2 months. But I think that's another interesting spring training battle, and the way the Yankees get hurt, we might see both of them on the field a lot this year.
Yeah, because one argument from someone was they wouldn't have paid Brett Gardner the money they did to bring him back, but also Hicks is hurt, so they had to bring him back in a way. But if Talkman played like he did last year, because didn't Talkman get hurt towards the end of last year and missed the postseason?
And I think, Robert, they really missed him in the playoff because the Yankees got all these big bats back just before playoff time. And you've seen what happened against the Astros. It was a strikeout fest, and a guy like Talkman, he could have, drove a ball in the gap or hit a flare to left field or something, and the Yankees might be champions instead of the Nationals. Yeah,
and it's I'm excited to see Gleyber Torres play short, but Didi, I think we got spoiled a little bit because Didi was really good at short. He made it look very, very easy. And Torres, we haven't seen him play a whole season at shortstop, so that could be interesting this year to see how he does defensively.
Yeah, he'd come up as a shortstop, but you got big shoes to fill with with Didi, because Didi was smooth out there and had a cannon for an arm, and even though his hitting regressed a little last year, but if you put his stats together, Didi's stats, he would have had like 35 homers and 120 RBIs. So, I think you'll lose a little defensively. That's just, off the top of my head. But Torres will do a good job at short.
And Brian Cashman came out and said that Happ is the Yankees' 5th starter, but like we were talking off air, that could just be talk, right?
Yeah, that could be just talk going in the spring training. As far as the 5th starter role is, that'll be decided during the spring, and who can stay healthy and who pitches well, and that could just be a GM ploy to up the ante for Happ, saying like we're just not hell bent on getting rid of him. We want to get rid of him to save salary. It's like, well, he'll be our 5th starter. If you want him, you got to give. It helps in trade value.
Yeah, because I know Cashman has been trying to unload him. And with Montgomery coming back, if Happ's still on the roster, do you send Montgomery down to AAA? Because I don't really see him coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah. Like that's another spring training thing. I think there's a possibility, with Montgomery missing all or almost all last year. It takes a while to come back from, Tommy John. Most guys, even when they come back and they're healthy, it sometimes takes a season just to regain, just to become a pitcher they were before. So I think there's a possibility we'll see Montgomery start out in AAA, and things have a way of working themselves out.
Yeah, that they do. And we're what, less than 10 days from pitchers and catchers reporting? I mean, we got to be getting close, right?
Yeah, that's. I think it's a week from this Tuesday. I think they're, they'll be down here on the 12th, and a lot of the guys are over to the Heims, like I said before, and they're working out over there. So baseball is just around the corner.
Yeah, and yesterday was Jackie Robinson's birthday. I think he was born in 1919, so he would have been 101 yesterday if he was still alive. Yeah,
I mean, the impact he had on baseball is like an impact he had on this country was just it's one of the most important people ever be around in the USA. And it's just a shame, all that he had to go through because he died young. If you've seen pictures of him, Robert, like when he was at I think it's the World Series in 71 or 72, he was like in his early 50s and he looked like he was 80.
Yeah, there's a picture of him when he was announcing for ABC Sports in '65, and he looked a lot older than he appeared. I mean, he did. He went through a lot. And if anyone ever has an opportunity to read his biography, do it. I mean, his life before baseball and after baseball is incredible. I mean, everyone knows the legend of him as a ball player, but what that man was able to accomplish off the field was just as amazing.
Well, I think when he was, I believe, was at UCLA? I mean, he played all the sports. He played baseball, football, track and field, basketball, and I remember, reading somewhere where Duke Snyder, when he lived out in California, he used to look up to Jackie Robinson, reading about what his great college exploits, and it's we don't even have to repeat, Robert, what he's done in baseball, but it's just an incredible life.
Yeah, and he was the vice president of personnel for Chock-full Nuts, which is a great coffee. Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
Sorry, Robert. Go ahead.
Oh no, and also, he had a bank. I forget the name of the bank, but I mean, anyone who gets a chance should really read his biography of what he was able to accomplish both on and off the field.
Well, another interesting thing, at the end of his career, which was after 1956, he actually got traded to the Giants. And, he said, I'm not playing for the Giants. I'd rather retire. So Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants made a trade there at the end. And Jackie said, I'd rather work for, I'm not sure, maybe it was Chemical Bank or Chock-full Nuts Coffee. Yeah. So he had other options.
Yeah, I mean, back then, you had you had 4 teams eventually in New York, right? I mean, the Giants, the Dodgers, Mets, and Yankees at one point.
Well, the Mets didn't come along till 52. The Giants and the Dodgers left after 57.
Oh, okay. Oh, that would have been something, though.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it was just, we've discussed it before. I mean, from 1949 through 1957, there was a team from New York in the World Series every year.
Yeah, my grandfather had that. I'm sorry, go ahead. My grandfather had three brothers, and one was a Yankee fan, one was a Giant fan, one was a Dodgers fan, and so he became a Phillies fan. Well,
that's a tough choice because the Phillies were bad.
Yeah.
The Phillies were bad for a long time.
Yeah.
No, there was some stat from, I don't think a team outside of New York from 1949 through maybe the second or third game of the World Series in 57 actually won a game.
Wow.
the Milwaukee Braves won a game in the '57 series, and they won the series. But every other time, I mean, the Giants got in '54 and they swept the Cleveland Indians, who won 111 games. So, and everything was like like a Subway series. It must have been a great time to be in the city.
Yeah,
I would have loved to be around that day.
And also, Curtis Granderson announced his retirement the other day.
Yeah, I happened to see that this morning. I mean, he played for both the Yankees and the Mets and the Tigers, and he really had a good, solid career. He wasn't a big guy, but he hit a lot of home runs, and he covered a lot of ground in the outfield, and he was a class guy. I remember him down here. He was always great with the fans, and just a pleasure to be around.
And also, there was another birthday, Nolan Ryan. I think he turned 73, something like that. I thought he was older, but apparently he's not. The Ryan Express.
Well, I bet you could go out and still throw 80 miles an hour.
Yeah. I could still remember when he was, 46 years old, and Robin Ventura, charged him out, and he put him in a headlock and gave him a couple good punches at 46.
Yeah. Well, those Texas boys are strong, and I remember a picture of him. He was on the mound like he was bleeding from the lip, and there was blood on the front of his uniform. That's like an iconic picture, a baseball picture.
Yeah, I remember, and he started buttoning his shirt back up and tucking it in, and the crowd started going crazy. And they loved it.
I remember him, Robert, when he was with the Mets in 1968, 69. He used to throw so hard that he would get blisters on his his fingertips. Damn. And there was a deli, I think it was in Flushing by Shea Stadium, and the guy sent him like pickle juice to put his fingers in this pickle juice to toughen up, the calluses and stuff, and it actually worked.
No,
that was and so if anybody's getting blisters, try to put some pickle juice on it. It worked for Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, he led the majors, or at least the leagues he were in, 11 times in strikeouts. He has a major league record over 5,700 career strikeouts and 7 career no-hitters. I mean, boy, could he throw.
Yeah, and I remember a game against the Yankees. He must have threw like 11 or 12 innings. And Robert, he must have threw 200 and some pitches. It was just amazing. I mean, he was throwing, 96, 97 miles an hour, and like in the 12th or 13th inning. It was just like an incredible arm. It was just something, it was something to see.
And he had great mechanics. I mean, his delivery was it was almost flawless. I mean, it was a great pitching motion. Yeah,
that's one of the reasons he hung around so long. And another guy, Tom Seaver with the Mets. I mean, the Mets were always great at developing pitchers, and a lot of the pitchers they had from the '60s, they last a long time. Like Jerry Koosman and Matlack, Seaver, Nolan Ryan. So the Mets did a great job for many years of developing pitchers. They all had outstanding mechanics, and they had outstanding careers.
I think I told you this once before. My father's friend used to go out garbage picking on Friday nights, like decades ago, and he came across a lady who was throwing away all her husband's clothing and odds and ends, who had passed away, and he found an autographed ball from the 1969 Mets with Nolan Ryan and Tom Seaver's name on it. And he even went to her, knocked on the door, and told her what she was throwing away, and she said, "No, you can keep it." So he has an autographed ball of the entire Mets team from 1969.
Wow, that's an incredible piece of memorabilia. I mean, the Mets, they come around in '62, and they had some rough teams there at the beginning, and then they went from 68 to '69, they went from 9th or 10th place to first place. So it was a remarkable run that year. I remember it well. and I hated the Mets for 40 years. But that
was Casey Stengel still managing the Mets in '69?
No, that's when they had Gil Hodges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had Gil, who should be in the Hall of Fame, and they had Eddie Kranepool, Jerry Grody, Cleon Jones, Art Shamsky, Don Clendenin, Ron Swoboda, Ed Charles, Buddy Harrelson, Tug McGraw. So it was. I remember the team well because it was it was rough being a Yankee fan then.
I watched this great documentary the other day about Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose, and I mean Shoeless Joe hit the only home run in the World Series, batted .375, had 7 RBIs. I think he had 6 doubles. It's just if he was throwing the World Series, his stats don't really back it up. And Pete Rose and the way baseball now is embracing gambling, it just seems wrong to keep them on the ban list for life. In Shoeless Joe's case, he's banned for eternity, which is, I didn't know that, and Rose is banned for life.
Well, the thing about Joe Jackson, when they had the scandal in 1919, now compare it to what the Astros just did. I mean, the players from the Astros, if they testified, it couldn't be held against them. But Joe Jackson, they didn't have a chance to go to school, so he really didn't, didn't know what he was doing. And when the statement he gave was like used against him. Yeah, it was one of the things that got him, suspended for life. And then you had Judge Landis, who, before he became the commissioner of baseball, used to make a lot of decisions, and they were like all overturned because some of them were just, ridiculous. So, when Joe Jackson could be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, with the Black Sox case, he didn't even really talk to any of them. And Shoeless Joe admitted to taking $5,000, but said he decided to play to win. Back then the ball players weren't making anything. I mean, the owners were the ones who were, lining their pockets with money. And back then, baseball, gambling was widespread through baseball back in that time. It wasn't until after the Black Sox did it clean up a little bit. But a lot of players throughout the major leagues were taking money to throw games, apparently, after watching this documentary.
Well, if you're a Yankee fan, read about Hal Chase, the first baseman.
Really?
He was one of the all-time great criminals, crooks in the history of baseball. And he was a great fielding first baseman with the Yankees, and he was a manager for a while. And so, look up his life story, Hal Chase. It's very interesting. But, getting back to the Black Sox in 1919, Charles Comiskey owned the team.
Yeah.
And the reason they were the Black Sox, he used to charge the players to wash their own uniforms.
Holy cow.
I
knew they hated
their own uniform. Yeah, and they hated the owners, so they said, well, we're not even going to wash our uniforms. And Eddie Seacott, if he won 30 games, was going to get like a bonus. And I think he got to 28, 29 wins, and he didn't start him the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, so he couldn't get his 30th win.
Oh wow! I know that Comiskey was extremely hated, and I can see why now. Wow, totally different time.
And when they won the pennant, he sent down all his champagne, and to find out it was all flat.
Holy shit!
Yeah, they opened the bottles and it was like poof.
Yeah.
So he was.
Going back to Pete Rose real quick, the commissioner. One of the reasons they say they won't consider reinstating him is because they said he hasn't changed his ways, and they say he still gambles. And Pete Rose says, I live in Las Vegas, and the bets I make are all legal. They're legal bets. They're not illegal like they were back when he was making illegal bets. These are legitimate bets at casinos, but baseball still considers him not to have changed his ways. And baseball, it's crazy because they're embracing this whole gambling on baseball through, all these fantasy leagues and all that other stuff. I mean, it's like $1 billion business of gambling on baseball with all this bets.
Yeah, I mean, it's hypocritical. Baseball will do anything to make a dollar. I mean, as far as Pete Rose, Pete should be in the Hall of Fame. And if they want to suspend him and say, well, you'll never work in Major League Baseball again, that's fine. But just having, Pete Rose around to, talk about baseball and, share his great knowledge, like even being a minor league manager or something, just, because a mind like that, I mean, baseball, it's just, Pete Rose, he gave 100%. He wasn't great, blessed with great talent, but he had a drive that was second to none. So, Pete Rose was an inspiration to a lot of, people who played baseball because he was terrific.
Yeah, I gotta find out the name of that documentary because the interview with Pete Rose, I mean, it was moving. You really felt bad for him because you could see how much pain he's in to this day, not being able to be a part of baseball. Like he said, it literally ripped part of his heart and soul from him. And like he asked the guy who was interviewing, what's worse, someone using steroids to cheat baseball or someone who made bets on his team to win? And it's, there are a lot of guys who use steroids and broke a lot of, prestigious records. And, they never got really in, serious trouble. I kind of felt bad for him watching that interview because you could see the pain in his eyes.
Yeah, and I mean, look at this crap that just went on with the Astros. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they fired the janitor. I mean, you got rid of the managers, you got rid of the general managers, and it's like, well, I don't remember any of those guys getting big hits in the playoffs or anything. So as far as I'm concerned, they didn't do much anything. It was a great start, but, until you suspend players, they benefited from it. They got a World Series out of it. They're going to have a great team this year. So as far as I'm concerned, they haven't really done a damn thing. They didn't hurt the product on the field. And
they signed Dusty Baker to a 1-year contract, and next, after the season, they're going to bring back A.J. Hinch, and who knows what they'll be up to then. I mean, I wonder if the Houston will be a different team this year.
Well, that's the thing, Robert. Cora and Hinch and the Astro GM and Beltran. I mean, if they're back in the fold next season, it's like it's almost a gentleman's agreement. Well, we'll suspend them, we'll make it look good for a year, and we'll just go on as business as usual. So, it was a great start, but I mean, even taking away a couple draft picks, that's minor. I mean, if you take away maybe 4 or 5 rounds for 5 years, that might affect the team. But as far as I'm concerned, they didn't do too much.
Yeah, someone said they didn't want to, cripple them to the point it turned into a ghost town, but they tanked for years, and they were a ghost town because of it. And I think they should have been punished just a little bit more harshly. And I do think some of the players should have gotten in trouble.
Well, that's what I think. I mean, it didn't hurt. It's not going to hurt the product on the field.
No.
And I mean, players benefited from it. The Astros are still going to have a great team this year. They might be in the World Series again. So, and still until some of the players get suspended, it really, it's business as usual, and the billions will keep rolling in.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I got us off course from the Yankees. I was fascinated by that documentary I saw. But you want to talk about their prospects?
Yeah, you got the list in front of you, Robert?
Yeah, I do. I see Debbie Garcia is their number one prospect, the right-hand pitcher. He shot up through their minor league system last year pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really anxious to see him down here in the spring training. Yeah. That's one of the guys I'll be looking at, and there's a couple other guys, you can mention.
Yeah, one of the scouts mentioned about Garcia that he has a frame like Pedro Martinez, and I found that interesting. That he has the same frame and same kind of almost whip on his pitch.
Well, you can't do much better than that. And I think didn't he struggle a little in AAA? So I think he probably needs more time in AAA. But it'll be nice to see him in some of the the spring training games down here. So.
Yeah, they say his fastball's in the mid-90s, but can top out at 97, 98, and he complements it with they say a plus curve and an average changeup, and he's developing a slider that has potential to be a plus pitch. So he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on this spring.
Yeah, he sounds like a good one.
Yeah, and the Yankees' number 2 prospect's a 16-year-old they signed, Jason Dominguez, the switch-hitting outfielder.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they'll probably be bringing him down here in early March, and as we talked off air, you want to give some stats on him, Robert? You want to give a little report on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's about 6'4", something like that, 6'3", 6'4", but I mean, for a 16-year-old, he's got a frame of an adult, and most of the scouts all agree he's a can't-miss prospect. They all think he's a stud. He's got all the tools. So, I mean, I'm very anxious to see him, play some professional ball down there.
Well, I'm sure I'll see him in the minor league camp in the preseason games, and I imagine he'll play some extended spring training. And I think the report I seen, they're going to put him in Pulaski or Staten Island, so they're going to forego the Gulf Coast League and advance him a little, and he'll probably play in the short season league starting in June, and then maybe they'll have him in the instructional camp down here in September. But there's not a lot of pressure. I mean, I've heard, Mickey Mantle and Mike Trout.
Yeah. Yeah, it says here, even though he hasn't played in an official game, I guess he's played in the Tricky League and Instructional League, and he's shown some incredible power, including some towering home runs. So he's definitely someone to watch over the next, several years as he ages and matures.
Yeah, it'll be fun, to watch that.
And Clark Schmidt is their third-rated prospect.
Yeah, I know they're high on him. He come out of what college was it, Robert? Was it South Carolina? There, they mentioned that.
No, but they did say he was taken 16th overall, despite undergoing Tommy John surgery prior to the draft. But he's exceeded expectations.
Well, I'm sure they'll invite him to camp. And I think I was reading an article. They were, you might possibly see him at some point in the big leagues this season if he, if everything hopefully it goes as planned. But I've heard a lot of good things about him, and I'm sure we'll see him in the spring training games.
Yeah, they said he had over 100 strikeouts and 90 and 2/3 innings. His fastball is mid 90s, but they say his changeup is his put-away pitch, and his curve is just as good. So I mean, he's got the 3 pitches that you want out of a pitcher. But yeah, it's his curve and changeup. They say is his put-away pitch.
Well, I think one of the good things about him, I believe he played in the ACC, which might be the best college baseball conference in the country. So I mean, he's faced top flight competition in college. So I'm sure that was helped him in his career. Facing top flight competition.
Yeah, and the Yankees' fourth-rated prospect is this right-handed pitcher named Lewis Gill, who they got from the Twins in exchange for outfielder Jake Cave. And they say his fastball tops out in the mid-90s, but he hits 101 on the radar gun at times.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know they have a lot of top prospects, like in A ball and lower A ball and stuff. I've heard the name Robert, but I really don't know too much about him. But I have heard the name.
He's 21 years old. They added him to the 40-man roster after the season. He had 20 starts between Charleston River Dogs and the Tampa Tarpons, and in total he was 5-5 with a 2.72 ERA with 123 strikeouts in 96 innings. So he's another young flamethrower.
Yeah, he'll probably start out in with the Tampa Tarpons, and hopefully later in the year he gets up to Trenton, and see what happens from there. Until they get to Double A, you really don't you really don't know. When you get to Double A, that's a big jump, and then usually when you get to Double A and you play well there, that give you you're good enough to be you're possibly good enough to be in the big leagues if you can iron some things out.
And the Yankees' number 5 overall prospect is Estevan Florio, but it says a lot of because of his injuries, he's fallen down the list as far as major league prospects are concerned. He's only 22 years old, or he'll be 22 this year.
Well, I think the thing about him, as we've discussed on other shows, if he can do something with the bat, because he just doesn't recognize breaking pitches, but the talent's there. Yeah.
I mean, I think one spring training, it was either last year or the year before. I mean, he was hitting triples like they were nothing with the speed that he had.
Yeah, he's got blinding speed, and he can cover ground in the outfield. So I mean.
Yeah.
And he's still young. I mean, if it takes another 2 or 3 years to, develop the hitting skills, so be it. But I think, at some point we'll see him in the big leagues. Maybe not with the Yankees, but he'll be a big leaguer.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to start him out at high A and then push him to Double A. It says they said he had a cup of coffee in Double A in 2017, but hasn't reached that level since due to injuries. So we'll see what he'll do in Double A this year, because it looks like they're going to try to push him up there.
Yeah, I mean, I know he didn't hit too well with the Tarpons last year, and he has stretches where he looks like a 5-tool guy, but then baseball's a tough sport, so you can have great talent, but baseball skills are a different thing.
And the number 6 prospect here, he's another right-handed pitcher, but I can't pronounce his first name, but his last name's Gomez. And the Yankees signed him as an international free agent in 2016, and it says that he has cemented himself as one of the Yankees' top pitching prospects heading into this 2020 season.
Go ahead, Robert.
His main pitch is a fastball that he throws 97, 98 miles per hour, and it has sinking action to it.
Yeah, I've heard that name, but I really don't know too much about him. But they're loaded in the minors. They even a couple of these pitchers develop. It could be like a Severino. I mean, Severino come out of nowhere, and Jordan Montgomery. So hopefully they can get to that level.
And at number 7, there's another right-handed pitcher, Luis Medina, and they say that Medina may have one of the highest ceilings among all the pitchers in their minor leagues. Armed with an electric heater that regularly reaches triple digits, and a knee buckling curveball. So he's someone I think they're very high on. I'm trying to look for his age, but I don't see it.
Just go down the list, Robert. What are we? We're number 8 now?
Yeah, it's another right-hander, Ronzi Contreras, a right-handed pitcher, signed as a free agent in 2016. He's risen up. Let's see, he ranks after 2 good seasons in the low minors. His fastball sits at the low 90s, usually 92, 94 miles per hour. Has reached 98 times, reaches 98 at times. But looking over his stats are pretty impressive. It's just, yeah, I mean, all their prospects, it seems to be right-handed pitchers. And they're young, too.
Yeah, I mean, well, when spring training starts, Robert, I'm right down here, so I'm going to have to, look at some of these guys and, give some good details on them, because right now I really don't, have a lot to go on. I really don't know too much about them. I just know the names and I can read the stats, but I really don't know too much about them.
Number 10's an outfielder, Kevin L. Quintera. They say he's one of their top international free agent signees of the 2018 class. He's only 17 years old, out of the Dominican Republic, but they say he has many impressive tools. There's potential there for him to become a future 5-tool player as he moves up the system. He's 6'6", 188 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah,
it says at the plate on those bones.
Yeah, it says at the plate he's shown some incredible bat speed and some raw power. As he matures, the power will become more pronounced in game action, but the ball already flies off his bat well. Only 17. Wow.
Well, that's the thing. When a guy can really hit, when the ball comes out the bat, it just makes a different sound.
Yeah.
That's when you can tell somebody, really got some bat speed and can really hit the ball. It just sounds different. There's a crack that's distinctive. You can't even explain it, but once you hear it, you know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. 8 of the Yankees' top 10 prospects are pitchers. All throw very hard and all extremely young. And they're 2 hitters, 117, 116, and apparently a very high ceiling for both of them. So some interesting players to keep an eye on in the next couple of years. Yeah, I mean,
Judge is still young, and a lot of the Yankees now are still young. So maybe this is the next. The next crew coming in maybe in the next 5 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for baseball to start. I mean, I'm not into the basketball anymore, and football season was a wash. I mean, I'm ready for baseball.
Yeah, I mean, the New York winter sports are rough.
Yeah, the Knicks to me are dead. So I mean, I can't even watch them. I mean, God. Yeah.
Well, one of the stories I heard about the Knicks is they were yelling, "Sell the team."
Sell the team. Yeah.
Sell the team. And I think Nolan threw out a 13-year-old kid whose mother's been a season ticket holder for 20 years. It's just it's bad.
Yeah, and I mean that time he had Charles Barkley physically removed from the Garden. I mean, Charles Oakley, I mean, come on. I mean, the fans, they do not like Dolan. I mean, I guess the Rangers are doing good, I guess. I mean, they're on the right path, but the Knicks for the last 20 years, my God.
Well, the thing with the Knicks, the fans keep on going. As long as they keep buying tickets and, their corporate boxes and they keep buying tickets, it's not like, well, you might want to have a better team, but it's not the priority, because years ago, I mean, you could have 19,500 fans at the Garden, but if the team started to go south, well, then you're only averaging 13,000. So, that would get the message across. But now you have sellouts all the time, so the message really doesn't get across.
And also, the thing I hate about the NBA is some of the rules. I mean, you really can't play defense. You're kind of playing defense with both arms tied behind your back. And the one thing that made the Knicks great in the 90s were they were a great defensive team with Patrick Ewing, being their main scorer and go-to guy the offense ran through, but they played great defense. And nowadays, unless you have the money, or you hit the lottery and get a superstar coming out of college, I mean, it kind of hurts teams. You need those guys that are able to score, and they're hard to come by, and a lot of people don't want to play in New York.
Yeah, the word gets around, when the team's not being run well. I mean, wouldn't it have been nice, to see LeBron in New York and, maybe Kobe Bryant in New York. It's just nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to play in New York.
I mean, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, they signed with the Brooklyn Nets instead of the New York Knicks, and the Knicks actually had the money to sign them, but they didn't want to go there. They didn't want to play there. And I can't get over it. I mean, I used to love watching basketball, but nowadays, I mean, it's open, people taking open three-pointers and driving the lane uncontested. If you even put your hand on the player, they blow the whistle. It's just unbelievable. You can't play defense like you used to. It wasn't like it was overly physical in the 90s. It was just a lot of hand checking, and they made that a foul.
Yeah, I haven't watched too much in years, so since Patrick left and Anthony Mason and Starks and Houston and Oakley, I've lost a lot of interest.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching, Michael Jordan. I was a huge fan of his, but I rooted for both the Bulls and the Knicks. But I mean, that era of basketball was great. I mean, you had guys who stayed with their teams. I mean, it was just a great time in basketball. Nowadays, everyone's moving around. It's a league where no defense is played. I mean, I can't watch it like I used to.
No. You want to bring up Kobe Bryant, Robert?
Yeah, Kobe. I mean, all fair, like I told you. I mean, I respected Kobe as a player because I mean he's a great player. But I grew up a Michael Jordan fan. But when I heard the news that he passed away, it was like a gut punch. I mean, I was sad. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And when I heard his daughter was on the helicopter with him, that just made it even worse. And then to come to find out there were other parents and children on the helicopter with them. I mean, I think 9 people in total lost their lives, including several kids. I mean, it was sad. It was a gut punch.
Yeah, I mean, it's just heartbreaking, for the families. I mean, that's something, your life's never the same. You never recover from that, and it's just, it's an unbelievable tragedy. And
one of them was a baseball coach, right?
Yeah, Altobelli.
Yeah,
his dad was a manager for the Giants, and he was a Yankee coach for a long time. But this Altobelli, I mean, he coached Aaron Judge and I think McKnight, Jeff McKnight with the Mets in the Cape Cod League.
Wow. Yeah, and I think his daughter was on the plane as well too. Yeah,
his wife, and there was coaches, and it's just. What can you say? I mean, I seen interviews with like Jerry West, and he's just devastated. He said, I don't know if I can ever get over this. It's just, it's terrible. I mean, there's really no words.
Yeah, and Kobe Bryant, I mean, he won an Oscar 2 years after basketball for a documentary that, he basically, and not only did he produce, but I mean, it was all him, and he won an Oscar for it, and he was writing children's books. I mean, he had a whole other chapter of life he was going to live, and to be cut down at 41, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I was truly saddened by it.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few athletes, you just mentioned their name. Kobe, everybody knew who Kobe was. People who didn't even like basketball knew who Kobe was. And, the like you were saying, the impact he had on future generations, and, how many people he's motivated just with his work ethic. I mean, you read about some of the things. I mean, he used to work out with weights and then go out and shoot 800, 1,000 shots. I mean, it was just, it was just incredible. I mean,
and he spoke multiple languages when they would play. When he'd be on the United States team or international team, he would talk to other players in their native tongue, and they'd be surprised. But he inspired a whole generation of people to play basketball from across the globe.
Well, one of the things, Robert, his dad, Joe Jelly Bean Bryant, played for the 76ers.
Oh, that's right.
And after his NBA career, I believe he played overseas for a long time. He played in Italy, and I think Kobe was over there in Italy and stuff, and he learned other languages from being around his dad. So
yeah, and I know they're still doing the investigation of what caused the crash, but they said it was extremely foggy that morning, and the L.A. County Sheriff's Department, I think it was the L.A. County, but they grounded their helicopters. They usually have 2 in the sky at all time, and they grounded theirs for the day because the fog was so bad. And reports were that they were at their destination, but they had a circle. They were circling for 20 minutes before they could land, because I guess the fog. I'm not sure. I just know that they were circling for 20 minutes waiting to land, and then the tower control said they couldn't see them on radar, that they needed to raise their elevation so they can spot them on radar. And as they attempted to raise, that's when I guess the plane or the helicopter came flying out, crashing out of the sky. I mean, that's the only information I really know of right now until they finish the investigation.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were circling for 20 minutes. It's just
yeah. I mean,
what can you say, Robert? I mean,
yeah.
One of the things that about Kobe, when he went off, there was nobody like it, because he used to make some of the most incredible shots.
Oh yeah.
I mean, from impossible angles, 2 guys hanging on him. It was just, it was like an artist, painting a picture. I mean, it was just incredible watching him, when he was on a hot streak. There was nobody like him when he was on a hot streak. The shots, it was just something to watch.
I remember in '98 when he was a rookie. I mean, he wasn't even a starter, but he was elected to the All-Star game by the fans. And that was Michael Jordan's last year with the Bulls. And it was Michael's last All-Star game. And they put Kobe in, and Kobe right away went at Michael. And he was going at Michael. Finally, I think George Karl was the head coach for the Western team, pulled Kobe out of the game because he was going at Michael so hard. And they were trying to let Michael have his moment. And they have this 19-year-old kid trying to go one-on-one with Michael Jordan every time he got the ball. But Kobe was he was an ultra competitor like Michael, and that's why Michael and him developed. I think they had a bond. They were very close.
Yeah, I mean, what it's like I keep saying. What can you say, Robert? I mean, he was just a tremendous player, and one of the icons of basketball, worldwide fame, and to have his life wiped out, and all these other people, it's just, it makes you question fate,
Yeah.
I
mean, he was an advocate for women's basketball. I mean, his daughter Gianna was 13, but she talked about how she was going to carry his torch. She wanted, she had a plan already. She wanted to go to UConn and college, and then go to the WNBA. I mean, it's just a shame that the lives that were lost. It really is.
Yeah, I mean the pictures of Kobe with his daughter at the Connecticut basketball games, at the NBA games, and there was videos of his daughter making the turnaround fall away shots like her dad. It was just and then Coach Gino at Connecticut said when they come up there, she was looking at the players like that's what she wanted to be, and the women's players were looking at Kobe like they couldn't believe it. It was just what could have been, and now it's wiped out. It's terrible.
I know, and I mean, for me, I'm 43, and to think he was 41, I mean, like that, I mean, you never know what can happen the next day. No,
I mean, I'll just give it a personal story. Like my dad was 28, and he went out, he was working, and he had a heart attack, and my mom was only 26, and it affected her life forever. And then I had a cousin who was 26 years old and got lost at sea, and it affected, everybody's life, the parents, the relatives, the friends. I mean, your life's never the same. It's like you're always waiting for the ball to drop. You're just waiting for the ball to drop. You never know. You never have true happiness again because you never know what can happen. Yeah,
and the crazy thing is this is, riding in a helicopter was normal for him. He didn't like the traffic in LA, so he always took the helicopter to the stadium all the time. That because that way he could spend more time with family. So traveling in the helicopter was basically a daily thing for Kobe Bryant his entire career, and he probably never expected something like this to ever happen to him.
Well, I think, being an ultra competitor, it's like, well, we can get through this fog. Don't worry about it. We'll make it. And, sometimes what makes you weak, what makes you strong also is your biggest weakness. So who knows? Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see what the investigators find out, because the thing I did hear was that tower control had them circling for 20 minutes. And then when they asked them to raise the elevation so they can find him on radar, that's when the helicopter fell out of the sky. Yeah. Well, we'll hear the report soon. So. Yeah. Well, the next time we talk, we should have pitchers and catchers reporting. Yeah, Rob. I'm waiting for the invites. Who's coming to camp and stuff. So that should be coming out this week. So it's a week. They report a week from Tuesday, which I guess would be the 11th, right? Well, I come down for physicals the 11th. I think they start practice the 12th, if not the 12th, the 13th, and the full squad is down here the 18th. And then the first game's the 22nd. But if anybody's down here in Tampa, they work out over at Himes, a minor league complex. So the players will be down here. They're down here now, some of them. So they'll be coming in and out of there in the next few days. So the one spring training game I would love to go to is the one that the Yankees are having at the Field of Dreams ballpark. Did you hear about that? Well, that's a regular season game, isn't it, Robert? Oh, I don't know. I thought they said spring training. I'm not sure if it's a regular season game. That's even better. That's even cooler. Yeah, I believe it's in August, and they're playing the White Sox, and I know they're building the stadium out there, and so that'll be a fun event. Oh, that'd be cool. I mean, I hope they don't cut lengthen the outfield too much. Keep it the way it was in the movie. The dimensions the way they were in the movie. I mean, that'd be pretty cool to attend. Well, yeah, I'm sure they'll put an outfield fence up, but I hope they keep all the. I don't know if they still have the corn stalks out in the outfield, but
they showed you a thing on ESPN. I only caught a little bit of it, but yeah, they were doing a lot of construction work around the area. So yeah, they're probably building a fence and stands and whatnot.
Yeah, so it'll be a great event. That'll be something to look forward to in the summer.
Okay, this was great as always, Jack. We'll try to do it, next Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, it sounds good, Robert. And hopefully we'll have some more news to talk about. And it's always great talking to you.
Likewise, Jack. And Arenado knew. There's a lot of talk, and I'd like to see if the Yankees will pull the trigger, and also the Mookie Betts of the Red Sox. There's a lot of talk about him being moved to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are trying to get their hands on him.
Yeah, I think the Red Sox are trying to, dump some salaries because, but they've won a lot of World Series, so it's worth it.
Yeah, I think they're pretty, far over the luxury tax. They gave a lot of money to David Price and Chris Sale, and they've been injured the last few years.
Yeah, but that's the way it is nowadays. You have to overpay these guys. And the bottom line is they won World Series, so I'm sure it's worth it's worth every penny if you win. If the Yankees win some series with Cole, it's worth every penny.
Okay, Jack. Next week then?
Sounds good, Robert.
Okay, and all you Yankee fans, we'll talk to you then.
Take care.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.